Paedophile. The word alone is enough to send shivers down my spine. The innocence of childhood is precious and we must protect it. At least 80,000 people in the UK are thought to pose a threat to children, and anybody that violates children must face the full weight of the law. Child abuse is sick and twisted, but the best protection for our children is surely the prevention of them being abused in the first place. The uncomfortable truth, however unpalatable it may be to us, is that there are people out there who are sexually attracted to children. Many of these people don't want to act on their urges, but they are being failed because that support service isn't adequately available. If we are serious about protecting our children, then of course punishment for child abusers is absolutely essential. But then so too must be helping paedophiles in order to stop them ever becoming child abusers in the first place.
Michelle, you and I have been working together on this show for a number of years, and just some of the words I'm hearing, you're talking about they've been failed. We need to provide a real support service, and we need to be helping paedophiles. Just elaborate on what you mean, because it doesn't sound like the Michelle I know.
Absolutely. So I feel that, and this is a really uncomfortable topic for me, right. The whole thing is just not a pleasant topic or conversation. So it's really, I've had to soul search because my opinion hasn't come naturally to me. But what I feel is that, and maybe it's based on an experience I had when I was younger, when I knew children that were sexually abused by their father. Okay. And what it came out was that the father, he himself, when he was a child, was a victim of sex abuse as a child. And that left me with a view that his wiring wasn't quite right, that what had happened to him as a child, and I'm not a psychiatrist, so I don't know what backs this up, but what had happened to this man when he was a little boy had somehow affected his views and all the rest of it. And I cannot help but feel if that boy was helped and supported, he probably wouldn't have gone on, or there's a chance that he wouldn't have gone on to become a child abuser.
So it's the victims you want to help, is it?
Well, it's a few things. So I think that when a child is a victim of a sex abuse, I think that child must be helped so strongly to make sure that he or her comes through that without scarring. Then I also think, and I understand that this is very unpalatable and unpopular and inconceivable for a lot of people, I do believe that there are people out there, maybe watching this programme perhaps, that have a sexual attraction to children. They are a paedophile. They are not a child abuser. They haven't gone on to abuse children, and maybe they never will. But if we as a society are not able to accept that those people exist, however uncomfortable it is...
But just lastly, before I yield, I'm not an expert in this field, but anyway, but I thought it was almost impossible to rid, I'm going to use the classic example of a man, to rid a man if he finds himself sexually drawn to children. I thought it was one of the most difficult things to turn around psychologically or with a psychiatrist, no?
I'm sure it is incredibly difficult, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be attempted. When you actually look into this, as I have extensively before I did this debate, there are a number of people that talk, that regard themselves as paedophiles, that will admit anonymously they have desires towards children, and they are asking for help. They are saying outwardly, I know that this is wrong, I hate myself, I need some help, I need some support, and I am saying that that help and that support is not there. And before I'll bring Greg in, I'll show you a quote from the CEO of a helpline called Stop It Now that's been set up to try and help people in this situation.
Today, there's been 214 calls trying to get through, haven't been able to get through. We've answered 15 calls and dealt with them. Clearly a call, we expect about half of those calls to be from perpetrators of online or offline child sexual abuse or men troubled by their sexual thoughts. So they're clearly complex calls to deal with. They're in a position to make changes in their life today or to be a risk to children today. So we have to handle them properly to make sure that the risk to children is reduced and those guys are starting a journey of getting sorted out. But far too many people are not getting through because right now we don't have the capacity.
And that's wrong. They should have the capacity. So it's all well and good throwing money at prosecuting people when they've performed the act of child abuse, but what I'm suggesting is that we need to invest much more in preventing it.
Yeah, the Chief Constable Simon Bailey, who is the National Police Chief's person on child protection, he agrees with you to some extent. If you listen to his quote, he says, child sexual abuse cannot be countered by enforcement alone. Alongside the important role for education in raising awareness and a greater role for technology companies in child protection, it is also crucial that offenders who are yet to be arrested are given the opportunity to seek help. Now, actually, I know someone distantly who is currently in jail for looking at child sexual abuse online. Been in jail for some months. Wouldn't treatment have helped more than just putting him into jail? I don't know.
I think online has changed it. Online has changed the whole dynamic.
I think when you commit an act, because it's to when you look at child abuse online, you're looking at a crime scene. When people watch child porn, there is no such thing as child porn. It's a crime scene that you're watching. And I think when you start watching that stuff, you absolutely should be prosecuted or whatever, because it's illegal, it's a crime. What I think, though, is I want to stop people even getting to the point of wanting to watch that and act, and it's just wrong. What do you think, Trevor?
Well, I'm a bit puzzled about how you would ever make any of this work. I mean, you're completely correct that a disproportionate number of people who commit offences are themselves people who have suffered abuse as children. But most of those people will never tell anybody that is the case. And number one. Number two, many of the people who have suffered, in fact, most of the people who have suffered abuse, are not themselves abusers. So if you were to say, OK, we'll identify people by the fact that they themselves had some experience as a child, you'd actually be dealing with a group most of whom are not likely to offend. And the other point, let me put it this way simply. There are three men sitting at this table. How do you know which one of us is a potential paedophile?
Right, OK, so let me answer this
first.
Whether
all of us are potential paedophiles.
Right, first things first, paedophiles are not just men. That's my first point. My second point is you say, well, how would I make this work? It's not about sitting around a table and guessing who's a paedophile and who's not. In Germany, they do this, that they do what I'm suggesting. They have a service where people know, if you're a man or a woman that has a sexual desire towards a child, you know that that is your thought process. You yourself know, and you probably also know that it's wrong. So these people themselves are asking for this help, and what I'm saying is that this service does not exist. So in Germany, before I bring in Rachel, they have Project Dunkelfeld, where people anonymously contact therapists. These guys are given a protected environment to talk about what is going on in their head, and they are supported, and hopefully, and it says here, 80 to 85% of these people are what they call reformed and do not go on to abuse children.
They've voluntarily come forward, then?
Yeah.
OK.
Yeah.
I think Michelle's right, that it's far better that, we stop this happening before it happens. But, the criminal justice system has actually said it's not equipped to deal with the number of potential child abusers and potential paedophiles and actual paedophiles that are out there. I think there are 80,000 potential paedophiles who pose a threat to children online. So if anything can be done within either the criminal justice system or the NHS, or both of them working together to enhance the access available for these people if they feel they can come forward to seek help, let's please bring it on. Steady.
I'm going to push back against this. Greg has mentioned somebody he knew. I don't know if any of you has actually ever met an actual self-confessed paedophile.
Yeah, I have.
OK. Well, I had the pleasure, I'm using that word ironically, of spending 3 days in a room with a series of these guys when I made a documentary. It's going back a long way. And let me be absolutely clear. Most of them thought what they did was fine, actually. Most of them thought it was fine. Now, there may be the odd person who says, I'm sick and all the rest of it, but actually, it is the nature of this particular condition that most of the men, particularly involved, think it's OK. And I want to ask you the question, if a serial rapist came forward and said, I can't help myself, would you be saying, let's put them in a project? I mean,
no,
come on.
No, so let me
steady.
be absolutely clear. I do not condone paedophilia, and I do not condone
I know you're not.
child
That's not the
abuse.
question I'm asking.
So what I'm saying is, no, I do not think that anybody, serial or otherwise, that touches or abuses a child is okay. I am not suggesting that. What I'm saying is some people have warped mindsets. They do think that what they do or think is okay. And often, not always, often, that has come from their experiences of affection, intimacy, has come from their own father, their own mother abusing them, and their wiring is wrong. We need to help those people in order to protect our children.